Hello and welcome to this video. This is a look at WireGuard VPN server. I've never used this personally before. This came in as a request from somebody who'd watched my other videos, and I have to say I've become a bit of a fan. It's very lightweight. It's very easy to set up, and we've got some good options in terms of how we route our traffic on our VPNs. We don't necessarily have to route everything, and it's a very simple setup, easy to change. So people that are familiar with FortiClient, if they've ever used FortiGate, you get that option to do your split tunneling, as they call it. So you don't have to necessarily route all your internet traffic. You can just route your local services that you've got running on your network. So pros really against standard VPNs is that a lot of clients nowadays aren't allowing certain VPNs anymore. PPTP hasn't been allowed for ages, for obvious reasons. It's not encrypted and pretty insecure. LTTP, which was running over IPsec, and for a while was the go-to for Android and iOS once they got rid of PPTP. And again, now that's no longer available on most of those devices, and even Windows is now making it hard. And then all the other, more secure ones have come out, like AEV2, IPsec, and SSTP. You're talking about using certificates, and which, although I'm a big fan of because it's, added layer of security. You're not relying on a single password that can be, someone could write on a piece of paper and then get found out. But that is a lot of hard work to set up, especially if it's something you're just using for, testing at home, connecting to your home environment, your dev environment, or temporary, using your MikroTik as a jump box whilst you're setting up a remote network. So, but I'll go through what I find good about it, and hopefully, other people can see the benefit of it. And like I say, I've never used it in anger before, so if there's anything I'm missing here, then please feel free to reach out, and I'll be happy to take a look into other stuff. So, but yeah, we'll just take a quick look at the topology. Okay, here we've got similar setups that I've used in my other videos. We've got my HAP, which is my test router, which I'm connecting to via this device here. I do actually have a second interface into this one, which is how I'm accessing it. So if I do ever change anything to the routing here, I'm not going to lose connectivity, but that doesn't affect this internet access. And I've got the second test device here, which I'm going to be using as my WireGuard client, because just so again we don't break anything here, because when I first set my client up, I completely killed my connection. So so there's the gateway for these two is on this HAP, and then this one's connecting to my dev router. IP address is here, and then I've got a server hanging off here, which is on which is what I'm going to use to just ping to confirm that I've got access into this network still. And then over here I've got my CHR in AWS, as it's probably IP, and this is what's going to be the WireGuard server. So this is then going to connect up to here, and then hopefully then we'll be able to access local resources, and I'll show you how to do both in full internet access and just certain subnets or devices if you wanted. Okay, so let's jump on to take a look. This is I just like to point these out at the beginning of each video, because I've got a guide here, step-by-step guide, which I've created based off what I'm going to show you now. It's got Winbox screenshots as well as the CLI commands, and it goes through basically different setups and what I've used for this setup, and also the options that you can change. Again, like I say, I'm fairly new to WireGuard, so this setup works pretty well for what I've used it for. I actually had it set up on my phone as testing, and then I didn't actually realize I'd still got it running, and had it on yesterday. And then this morning I looked at my phone and noticed that I still had the VPN symbol on, and it stayed connected. And I'd come from home and driven to work, and I was at work at the time, and so I was switching between Wi-Fi and LTE and stuff. So yeah, it's pretty robust like that. So yeah, and then we'll go through setting up the client. It's available. The client seems to be available on Windows. I've tested it on Android and an iPhone. So we'll just be using the Windows for this setup. But again, it's pretty straightforward on both. The advantage I found on certainly on the Android is you can specify which apps you want to actually use, which I know is a feature if you've ever used NordVPN. You can basically exclude apps from the VPN. So if you only want a particular app to be accessed over the VPN, which is quite a neat little trick, you can also do this on there. So if you were running a NordVPN, like I've done in another video, from your home router, and then you wanted a particular app to always be connecting over that network, if it's going to another country and then you needed that for whatever reason, you could then specify the app to only use it. So it's basically, you could either connect Nord directly on your phone, or you could have it always running it on a MikroTik somewhere, and then just allowing the traffic to flow from that particular app all the time. So again, that's pretty, that gets a tick in my box. So yeah, let's jump on the router. Again, this is the CHR I've got in AWS. It's in the Australian Sydney zone. If you're not familiar with AWS, you can select different regions to have your instances in. But as I'm based in Australia, I've got it currently in Australia because it's obviously closer. One thing to note, that this WireGuard is only available on, I believe, from 7.1 onwards. So you have to have a MikroTik that's capable of, which, you know, if you bought a MikroTik in the last 5 so years, it probably will be. So you should be fine. So let's get into it. So what I'm going to do first is set up, so you click on the WireGuard there, and you just add an interface. And this is standard. We're just going to leave it, just give it the name it gives you there. And this is the default port we're going to use. Okay, we just okay that. Now we go into our peers. Actually, before we do that, we're going to give that interface an IP address. So currently I've got this VPN bridge, which I've used for other testing of other VPNs. I've got this tunnel established, which is connecting to another CHR I got in the UK, and that's using 10.2.254. So what I'm going to use for this one is 10.3.254.1/24, and this is going to be the network that all my clients are going to get. And then we just add that to the WireGuard interface. There we go. That's all we need to do there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to configure our peer. Now here we're going to set the bare minimum settings that we need to do. So we'll give it a name. We'll just call it WG user 1. Interface obviously WireGuard 1. You just set this one to auto, and it will generate these when you apply the config. The endpoint port is going to be the default, so 132.3. No, what is it? Yeah, 132.3.1. And then allowed addresses, we're going to basically put in what we want to use as our endpoint, so our client address. So we'll give it .20. We're not going to use a pre-shared key in this one. It's just an added layer of security, which, you know, is probably recommended. But again, we're just testing at the moment. So we set our client address. Again, this is going to be the one that's given out to the machine. I'm going to just give it public DNS, but we could use, if you didn't set this, it would just use the DNS that your machine's got from its Wi-Fi or whatever connection you're on. Or you could use, if you were specifically routing stuff internally and you wanted to resolve internal DNS and you were using your MikroTik as a DNS server, then yeah, which I normally do, which is one of my recommendations. If you've seen my 5 top tips for MikroTik, I definitely would recommend that, because it just gives you a bit more control and over your DNS. But anyway, so yeah, this is all we need to really set up, and then we hit apply, and you see we're going to populate the certificates. And also what it does, which is also really cool, is gives you this config here, which we're then going to just, doesn't actually select it when you double click on it, but if you double click on it, you can then go select all, copy, sorry, or you can do select all, and it still doesn't select anything what it looks like, but copy. And then if I open a notepad, There we go. So it's in there. So all this is doing is basically saying that. So what can be confusing is we've got this listener port, and then we've got this endpoint port. So the endpoint port is what we're going to be connecting to from our client. It's going to port that's used to connect between the client and the server. So this is the one we're going to have to add into our firewall allow rule. This is an auto-generated one, so every time we establish a connection, this can increment, or if we have multiple clients, this will increment. So this doesn't have to be allowed through the firewall. I've tested it without allowing this. As you can see here, we've got the private and the public key. We don't have to worry about any of those. It's already done it for us. This is the bit I'm going to be talking about in a minute. This is the key for what we want to route. But for now, we're just going to copy that. And then what I'm going to do is first I need to jump on the firewall. Okay, and under filter rules, I've already got these this drop one here, so I'm going to have to add something to allow above it. Again, check out my video on firewalling setup for your MikroTik, because you don't want to leave this unconfigured if you haven't got anything else in front of it protecting it. I technically have a security group in front of this one, which is allowing, which was also controlling the traffic, but for this demo I've just allowed everything from that. So this is going to be doing the main firewalling for me. So we want the input chain, and we want the protocol is UDP. UDP, and then the destination port is going to be that 13231. Okay, and then action accept. We just need to make sure that's above that one. Okay, so that's going to be allowing our incoming connections. We get rid of that. So let's jump on our test machine. Okay, so I've just copied that across to my test machine, and I've installed the client. There's a link in the description for the Windows installation. It's just to jump you straight to the page to download from. And then we've got two options. We can either import the file, so I could save this. Again, this is outlined in that web page tutorial, but the quicker way is just, if we've got the config here, what I just need to do is do empty tunnel, and then it gives me the ability to literally copy and paste this directly in here. The other option is basically saving that text file as a .conf file, and then we could literally just import it there. And we can also do it from a zip file if we were importing multiple ones. So again, we've got what IP address I'm going to get as the client, the server IP there. Okay, just save that. Cool. Yeah, we need to give it a name. Just give that same name I gave it on the MikroTik. Okay, there we go. It's all in there. And we just click activate. Activating. There we go. Connected. So let's just confirm everything's okay. Do a trace route to the internet. You can see it's now going to that 10.3.254.1, which is my AWS. So that's the WireGuard interface IP address. Now, because we're using AWS, we always seem to lose that first ping, but then it goes out to the internet, as you can see there. And we'll just confirm. I'll just show you what it would be doing if this wasn't active. As it goes across, there you go. So it goes across my development network. So this is basically routing. This is our default gateway. As you can see, this is routing everything over. So what I'm going to show you now is how I want to do it. So I want to keep my internet. In fact, while it's just confirm that while it's on, I'll do a trace route to that server IP I mentioned, 10.2.1.1.123. There we go, it's going over there. Okay, so as you can see, that's right. They've brought correct way. So I've had to add some static routes within my network just to make sure stuff's reachable within there, but I won't go into too much detail there because that's just to give you an idea that it's going the routing the correct way. So now let's go ahead and disconnect that. Okay, now let's edit that. So we could have double, we could re-import that same one and we could change it. But let's just edit this one for now. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this to, we only want to route our local, let's have the LAN branch. Yeah, so anything we put in here is going to go over the tunnel basically. So we don't want our local traffic to go over there. We want, what was it, 2 dash, in fact I'll do a /16 because that's my entire my dev network. Okay, and yeah, there we go. Save that. Okay, activate. Okay, try that again. So what's happening now is, if it does proceed, is I'm actually not allowing any other IP addresses other than that 10.2, as you can see. So it actually does get there, but it looks like the first 2 are timed out. Now this is because I'm only allowing it access to that network, and actually the ones along the way, as if we look at the first one, is 10.3, 254.1 and 10.1. So what if we then add, if we know the there's not really a problem, we can still access that traffic, but you know, we do a trace route, we want to see all the hosts when possible, so well I do anyway. So let's add 10.3.254.1 because we only really care about that one, and then /32, and then we'll also add that other one, which is 10. Which is the subnet between my CHR and my development network. So just do the one. We'll do the whole lot for now. Okay. Sorry, I'm typing with my non-dominant hands, so it's not quick. There we go. And then activate. Now let's run that again. There we go. And then our internet access should still be going out of my local network. Okay, so hopefully that's clear enough. But yeah, like I say, that feature alone for me, I think, is a winner, because the amount of times that if you've ever wanted to access something on another network and you know, it breaks all your local connections, if you're on a domain joined laptop, you know, it starts screaming errors about can't access the Exchange server or your local shared drives or anything on the, you know, it's company specific, you can't now get to. It's yeah, just the ability to pick which routes you want it to go over. It's just yeah, I think it's a really good feature, which I would definitely recommend. If anyone's got any concerns that they with using this, then I'd be really interested to hear them. Or anyone's that's got problems setting this up. Like I said, I've tested it on Android, tested it on iPhone and Windows, and it seems to work pretty well. Being an Android user myself, that's probably the one that I've tested more. But yeah, when I tested it on the iPhone, I didn't really have any issues. It setup was pretty similar. You just basically get a you can again do the same thing. You can upload the config file. There is also, actually, I'll show you if I jump on here. If we open up the terminal, see, I don't know if this is something with the firmware I've got. Again, I haven't actually tested that first. But there it is. It's showing up now. It wasn't showing up before. There's this QR code, which you can then scan from your mobile device, which pulls all this config down, which is even better because you haven't got worried about transferring it across. What I was going to show you was if you do interface WireGuard appears, and then What is it? Something config. Show client config, and then we've only got one instance in there. There you are. You get a massive QR code there, so you could scan that if you make this really big, and it also has the text there. So there's another way of grabbing that if you're a CLI user. But yeah, it's pretty good. The other thing to mention, I guess, is I've never really touched on it in any of my other VPN videos, but perhaps I should. Some people would be limiting your local traffic in here. Sorry, I'm on the wrong MikroTik there. There you go. Would be limiting your other local traffic. So if we go IP firewall, you may have some forward chain rules here. So if you're not familiar, the chains from firewalls, input is basically anything traffic destined for the router itself. Output is anything going out of the router that originates from the router, and then forward is stuff literally forwarding through it. So from one side, from an external device, and it's traveling through to another external device. So that forward traffic, sometimes you may have management networks or something on there, or multiple clients you don't want talking to each other. So you would then need to do that here. So again, I would always use an address list. So then you would just say in the forward chain, the source, you can either put in that 10.3.254.0/24, and then you could put the destination list here as, say, I've got one called local, which is my local subnets here, or my local subnet, sorry, and that will just allow those to talk if I was blocking. But at the moment, I'm only blocking input. So, but again, I do have a plan to do a in-depth firewall one, because there's obviously lots of stuff here. I've used some of these before, like the NAT and the Mangle stuff, and the address list is a particular favorite of mine. And also, the troubleshooting using the connections here is a good one to know what you're looking at there. So, but again, that will be in another video at some point. But anyway, thank you for watching. If like I say, if there's anything I've missed, there probably is. Like I say, and I mentioned it several times, I'm fairly new to WireGuard, so and as much as I like it, I'll definitely be up for learning any other pros and cons that people have had, or any other issues setting it up. And as I said at the beginning of the video, this came as a suggestion or a request from one of the other subscribers. So I've done that a few times. I've had requests for videos and made stuff that I haven't necessarily used before, and had to actually go away and learn how to set it up. So anything you've got, big, small, simple, please ask questions. There are no stupid questions. I'm a big fan of MikroTik, as you can probably tell. I would recommend it certainly as a learning tool, if nothing else. But as your home network, your development network, your corporate network, you can do so much. Routing, Wi-Fi, VPNs, as a management tool, as a network monitoring tool. So please feel free to reach out. But I'd also ask you to please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video. Thanks.